is up, metal and heavy music fans? It's Flight of Icarus again with MetalTrenches.com, and today we have a review of Evile and their new album Hell Unleashed via Napalm Records. And hey, if you like to be kept up to date with the best and brightest metal bands and albums from the underground and above, then stick with me by hitting that subscribe button down below. Evile is a UK thrash metal band formed in 2004 with Hell Unleashed representing their fifth album following an 8-year gap since 2013's Skull. This is also their first outing with vocalist lead guitarist Old Drake and Adam Smith on rhythm guitars. File this as yet another first-timer album this year for me from a band that has already been making waves for some time. Fortunately, once more, taking these chances has proved to be a fruitful experience. Opening this thing up, we have the 1-2 punch of Paralyzed and Gore. Right from the start, I was like, okay, I'm in the right place. This is the thrash that I can enjoy. Just balls to the wall, rager tremolos. I was just so amazed with how fast just the... And then killer solos too, to really prove that these guys do know how to play their instruments. There's also a really great grumbly, huge sounding kind of like punk rock bass. These tracks just rip and tear, they don't fuck around, they don't waste any time, so I was just left after already with these two. What have I been missing all this time? And Gore actually features guest vocals from the Metal Meltdown's favorite comedian, Brian Posehn.
Oh my god, did I cringe! Oh my god, did I bash my head against the end of my desk crying to this record, begging it to stop.
Yeah, seriously, Robert is not a fan, especially after that Grandpa Metal album. But honestly, on this track, I'm wondering how he's going to respond to it, because really, you don't even really notice him. He's just doing background vocals. If I hadn't been told that he was there, then I would not have even noticed. So ultimately, it's a fun song, it's not distracting, but it is kind of just an odd choice given all of the available options out there. But hey, I know Brian's a metalhead, and this is just something fun he wanted to do, I guess. My favorite part of this song, though, is the middle section. It kind of brings it down, slows down, gets more ominous, intense, big pounding drums, and then kicks back into the speed again. But some of my personal favorites on this album, War of Attrition. This one's got more great riffs, really fast, really fun, great drums again. Awesome, like lots of drum roll transitions between all the different riffs. I really love that riff. It's just, oh, it's so much fun. It's bouncy. It just gets your head banging every time. Disorders, another great one. D-beats for days on this one. Y'all know I love my D-beat. That's never gonna change. It never gets old, no matter how many times I hear it. And they implement it so well with the, again, just raging riffs on top of them. More evil sounding atmosphere on this one. More awesome drumming too. Across the board, like the drumming is definitely a standout element on this one. Just cascades of it coming through. One of the more dynamic tracks too. Lots of great shifts in speed and another really lengthy solo. This may be the longest one on the album. I didn't like clock it or anything, but it definitely takes you for a ride, and it is very engaging. It's not just like a throwaway thing. This is a core element of this song for sure. And then, of course, great scream-alongs, too. Lots of great, just lyrical moments where I can definitely see when we're back at the shows, we're going to be throwing our fists in the air and screaming along to what he has to say. And then I was also glad to see them pay tribute to one of my favorite horror movies of all time, The Thing. And I also love that they specify 1982 in parentheses to clarify which version they're talking about, because, let's be honest, that new one, fuck the studio for what they did to that movie. No. How are you gonna screw over those hardworking creature effects people on a movie that is meant for creature effects? Come on. But anyways, another kind of slower build on this one. It takes its time getting started, and then further explosions of just chugging fury, very intense. Just utter brutality too. It's just so dense sounding. I found myself feeling like my ears were just being pummeled. And then you've got slower tracks too, like Incarcerated, Control from Above, and Zombie Apocalypse. Incarcerated has this great spooky, almost like Slayer-esque atmospheric intro to it that really gets you in the mood, gets you started. Similarly with Control from Above, you get this very haunting guitar interlude around the middle that is very fun, very melodic, and just different from the rest of the album. And these tracks seem to always come at like the perfect time when we need those dynamics, because if this album just went at full tilt the entire time, I have no doubt that it would get kind of berating, it would get kind of old, you'd have that, fatigue syndrome situation, but not so here. Like right when you've had that peak of just headbanging majesty, they know when to slow things down. And never boring on these either. These are equally entertaining tracks with their awesome methodical just foot stomping drums and riffs. I found myself just constantly just pounding my feet on the ground, even while I'm just sitting here. Great pace changes on these too. They're not slow the whole way through. They've got their own explosions, eruptions of intensity. It's almost as if they can't really hold that back for long. And then the title track is a great one too. It's a solid conclusion to the album overall. Fun time. Does a good job kind of summarizing everything you've heard so far, and by the time it comes around, it feels right. It feels like the perfect timing. It's like, okay, this album is ready to be over, and it kept it tight. And that is something I gotta say, again, about thrash albums. I say this in almost every thrash metal album review I do, because I've noticed this trend where we've got these really bloated, overlong thrash albums with overlong songs, and this genre is not designed for that. Like, some bands can pull it off, but most cannot. So I feel like Evile have done a good job here of just keeping it front to back, very entertaining. There's no real lulls, there's no real fat. They kept things pretty consistent. There's like one kind of longer track, but even that's not like feeling overlong, and they end it right when it needs to. I think my one real criticism overall, again, as a first-time listener to Evile 2, and I guess I have to take this for a grain of salt, too, because we've got a different vocalist on this. But yeah, the vocals, while heavy, can get a little grating with their constant just rah, 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 rah scream. It's like kind of the same the whole way through, so it gets a little bit old. His delivery is it works, though. I mean, they're definitely going for that kind of classic 80s style of thrash, and it works. It's just, I feel like a little bit more variety would be nice. It would add some extra layers of dynamics, keep each song a little bit even more engaging, and just step the whole production up, I think. Turning to my scales, I give Hell Unleashed an 8 for enjoyability. Like I said, the whole way through, I had a good time. It was entertaining. Is it something I see myself necessarily going back to as much as some of my favorite albums this year? Not necessarily, but just as a go-to, when I put it on, when I spin it, I don't feel the compulsion to like skip through it or turn it off. Like, I am having a good time. I give it a 9 for musicianship. The guitars and the drums in particular are just raging on this thing, and I can't leave the bass out either, because there are some moments where it really comes to the front, it steps up, and even when it's in the background, when you're paying attention, it is adding a lot to the overall impact and intensity of the music. So yeah, the performances on here, great. Again, like I said, the solos are fantastic, and the songwriting's pretty strong as well. And I give it a 7 for innovation. It's a pretty typical run-of-the-mill thrash metal album, and I think a lot of people are looking for that. And sometimes I am too. Sometimes that's just the mood that I'm in. So if that's what you're wanting, that is what you're gonna get. So an 8 overall and a B- for Evile and Hell Unleashed. Get it once again via Napalm Records. Y'all, thanks as always for watching, and let me know down in the comments, what did you think of this album, and also what is your favorite thrash metal album so far in 2021? I know for me, it's easily the new Cryptosis album, Bionic Swarm. Check out my review for that. It is fantastic. I cannot recommend it enough. It's like this proggy kind of thrash, a little bit Vector-ish. I described it as sort of Dream Theater meets Power Trip. And then yeah, stick around. I got plenty more videos coming right after this one. More album reviews, interviews with bands on the podcast. You name it, we've got it. So plenty of reasons to subscribe if you have not already. You can also chat with us on Discord and support on Patreon. But that'll do it for now. Flight of Icarus signing off. I will see you in the trenches.